Miami Community News, the hub for local news, information, and right now sports.
For the most part, yeah.
In sports in South Florida. Brett Romberg, thanks for coming in. It's good to be with you today on our typical Wednesday here at Miami Community News, and an exciting Wednesday at that, because we got a big game coming up in about 11 days now.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting, especially on the west coast of Florida. So, today, I think luckily for us and luckily for everybody that's going to be watching the show, we're going to get a good idea of a Super Bowl procedure. We got a guy, Anthony Becht, coming on, a guy that I played with in St. Louis, long tenured NFL player, but resides in Tampa and is part of like that whole Super Bowl committee. I know his wife does a lot of things for the NFL Wives Club as well. So she's probably, planning all kinds of wonderful events for the ladies that want to come into town as well, NFL Wives. And Anthony's got his hand on the pulse of everything going on over there right now. So aside from being a very tenured NFL player, super intelligent, he's not bad on the eyes either, even though he's put on a couple LBs, but he's Italian. So he is what he is, he's going to get a little bit bigger with age. But yeah, so Anthony's going to come on with us this morning at 11 o'clock and help us out and tell us basically what's going on throughout the community over there. Any kind of outlook as well. Like he does a lot of things with Spit and Fire with him and Grassa. So if anybody wants to check that out, I'm sure Tommy will put that up later on in the show. But yeah, Anthony's very knowledgeable, does a lot of NFL work, does commentating with the NFL, ESPN as well. He worked for a while doing the college games. So a very well-versed football mind, if you will.
Right. And one of those smart offensive linemen, man. I always seem to
he looks like an offensive lineman, but he's a tight end. That's the only thing. Oh. He's a blocking tight end for the most. But I think Mark Bulger made him some money. I think in college, coming from West Virginia. Mark Bulger reunited with him at the St. Louis Rams when Anthony came over there after his stint with Tampa. So I think at the end of the day, Anthony resided back into Tampa, so he can give us a really good idea of what's going on Super Bowl life.
Yeah, and he had a long career in the NFL.
Really long NFL career.
He played Jets, Tampa, Rams, Cards, and Chiefs. Yeah. I've often wondered, I know that let's say, because you don't really have an affinity towards Jacksonville, but let's say the Rams and the Falcons are playing in a playoff game or in a Super Bowl, which they can't, obviously. Right. Who is Brett Romberg rooting for? I wonder who Anthony Becht's rooting for in this game. He played for both the Chiefs and Tampa. He lives in Tampa.
Yeah, I think wholeheartedly he's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer guy. Just like Warren Sapp ended up doing a stint over in Oakland. Yeah. And he loves the Raiders now. Don't get me wrong. He likes the Raiders. Doesn't like the way the organization was run, but he's a Buck all day long, just like I think Anthony is. I know his son's over there. His son's a really accomplished high school football player as well that is highly touted and highly recruited. So he's got that going on for him, and Anthony does a little bit of coaching with him and private lessons, and you got the whole IMG over there on the West Coast, and very, very attractive recruiting base, I guess you will, if you would want to say that, on the West Coast of Florida. So but yeah, he's in tune, man. He's in tune with what's going on over there.
Yeah, I bet it's I'm curious to ask him about what Tampa's going to be like. It's a weird year to have a Super Bowl. I mean, it's not, I imagine the influx of tourists coming to that market is not going to be the same as, let's say, it was in Miami last year.
Yeah, we had multiple conversations last year because we were doing the former players thing at one of the hotels on the beach. I believe it was at the Lowe's, was the official headquarters of the NFL Legends community, which is a lot of the former players that have had, I think, 3 or 4 more years in the NFL, that we all convene there. There's barber shops there for the guys. There's all kinds of new products that people are trying to launch and sell, and a nice players lounge for everybody to go hang out with. But it's one of those networking community event things that a lot of former players love to go to, and some of them need it really, really badly. So Anthony's one of the guys for the NFL Legends, and we had a long conversation. It was me, him, John Runyon, Orlando Pace, some of the boys, and we were sitting there having a conversation about next year. Tampa, man, that's cool. Two years in a row. We got the Super Bowl in the state of Florida. That's awesome. Tampa's going to be a phenomenal city to do it in as well. And then all of a sudden the COVID hit. So we were, we put all of our plans on hold. Me and my wife had full anticipation of going to Tampa to go be with Anthony and his wife and go parade around and have a great few days over there. And then once the COVID thing hit, it just, put a halt on everything. So I noticed that they're only going to be having, I believe it's about 13,000 fans, not including medical workers and vaccinated journalists and all that other stuff.
Right.
But for the most part, they're going to allow 13,000 fans into that stadium, and then about 7,000 workers that are affiliated with the NFL.
Yeah, so it's not going to be the same environment.
No.
I imagine that's not going to, based on what I saw on Sunday with the championship games and the intensity that was in both of those games, I imagine it's not going to really have much effect on what happens on the playing field.
No, definitely not. I think it's once you get to the Super Bowl, and we were talking about it off air, and how people really do look at the isolation, not necessarily because of the COVID situation, but the 2 weeks that lead up to a Super Bowl, the isolation that players have to go through because of you're reaching the pinnacle of what you've been striving for your whole life. Luckily for the Chiefs, 2 years. It's like back to back. It's pretty badass. But you got a team like Tampa Bay who hasn't even sniffed anywhere near a Super Bowl in the longest time ever.
Right.
I think it's since back in the SAP days, to be honest with you.
Yeah, 2003.
Yeah. It's been a long time and a long time coming. And the fact that they had that monster free agent acquisition from the New England Patriots, a guy by the name of Tom Brady, who resurrected Gronkowski from a cruise ship. Yeah. Hey, Gronk, you want to come and play with me and make about $8 million this year? And he's like, all right, I'll put the bottle down. I'll stop partying for a couple months. So, you got that happening. You got a very powerful offense over there. They had Evans. All of these different intricate off-season acquisitions, additions to the team, running back wise as well in Tampa, and then all of a sudden, you got a badass coach to go ahead and accompany that. I'm very, very intrigued to watch this Super Bowl, more so than the other couple of years.
Really?
Oh yeah. The fact that Tom Brady, and this has been an ongoing conversation now for decades, is Tom without Bill, and is Bill without Tom?
We've been talking about it forever.
We've been talking about it forever and a day, and now all of a sudden we have the opportunity to see it, and clearly, whether it's the Bernie Sanders meme of him sitting in a jacket with Bill Belichick's head superimposed on Bernie Sanders' body, I think it's evident now that they've made it very clear that that Tom Brady is probably one of the greatest to ever do anything, to be honest with you, in the athletic world. You have your Kobe's and you have your Jordans, you have your Wayne Gretzky's, but this is right up there, if not better.
Oh, it's better.
You know what I mean?
I want to say it's better, and this is why. He's playing in his 10th Super Bowl. He's won 6. He's been in 9 so far. Yep. This will be his 10th.
Yeah.
First player in NFL history to play, obviously, in 10 Super Bowls, and he's in a list of elite athletes like a Bill Russell, who have played in 10 or more championships as his sport. But here's the difference. This is football now.
Correct. 32 teams, man.
32 teams. You're one of, 22 starting players.
Yep.
It's not like basketball where you got to throw 5 guys on the court. And if one of them is named LeBron James, well, man, that's a big difference, right?
Right.
So to me, the accomplishment is off the chain. To me, I don't know how any person in a team sport could have a greater accomplishment than what Tom Brady has done this year and if it's the last year of his career, which I imagine it's not, I mean, I can't imagine.
How long have we been saying that too? It's like, okay, how long is Tom Brady going to continually play? And how long is Tom Brady? This is what fascinates me. And I've spoken about it many times before. When you've reached the top of something in your career, your life, your want ever since you were a kid, when you've reached the top of that, I still hear Tom talk once in a while, and I've had conversations with him before, and it's just, how do you wake up every day to continually want and crave excellence? Like, how do you do that? Whatever your profession is, whatever your sport is, you wake up craving excellence and nothing else. And Tom just does it year in and year out and is never satisfied and always wants more. And man, whatever F the vaccine. Like, forget the vaccine, dude. What does Tom Brady have in his blood? That I would take whatever Tom Brady's got: intestinal fortitude, courage, want, will, work ethic, intelligence, over a vaccine all day long. Because my guess is if you draw Tom Brady's blood, he might cure COVID. That's all I'm saying. I'm putting that out there. Like, it's an anomaly. It's an anomaly.
I think the scientists should test that.
I would. I would. No doubt about it.
Do you think that Tom Brady, had he not left New England, would not have that desire? Do you think him moving from New England to Tampa invigorated him to the point where maybe it elongated his career a couple more years? Because his arm sure looks as strong as it's ever been. I mean, he doesn't.
Remember how bad it looked last year when he was puttering out. Like last year, he puttered that football around the football field, especially in the playoffs and towards the end of the year last year. That was evident to me. Inaccurate balls. Not this year. Not this year. He doesn't look like the same guy. I don't know if he TB12. Speaking of COVID-19, TB12, they might have found something in TB12 to go ahead and knock a few years off of his actual birth certificate. But yeah, TB12, man, he's figured it out. Like I don't understand. Maybe it's coming home to Gisele Bunching every day. I don't know.
That'd do it for me.
Yeah, I think that would suffice. That would suffice. And her bank account too, by the way. Not necessarily worried about TB's money.
The total package.
Yeah, she figured it out, and he figured it out.
I just sort of think that him moving, you're right. The end of last season, he seemed to peter out towards the end. This year, he just seems so invigorated. And as the season went on, obviously there was a learning curve. There was as Takedown Tommy said before the show, Tommy said he thought that they're peaking right at the right time. Tommy's bullish on Tampa Bay.
I played him last week, man. I was 3 or 4. I had them in the over, and then I had the Bills in the over in that game. So 75% for the weekend. I'm sticking with Brady.
I had Tampa going to the Super Bowl before this season even started.
I know.
I was like, hometown favorite.
I thought you were crazy, by the way.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the fact that I have a couple buddies that played with New England, and just I've been convinced. I've drank the Kool-Aid, and even though I've never been there or played there, wanting to play there just like every other NFL football player, willing to do whatever it takes to just make it to a championship. I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm a big believer in whatever kind of mentality or whatever it was they had over there between the combinations of Belichick and Brady and not putting a football on the ground. That's the same thing that Peyton Manning had in Indianapolis when I was playing. I would hear stories about Indy where that ball would never touch the ground during a practice. And I'm here either at St. Louis or Jacksonville at that point in time. There's balls all over the ground. Guys are dropping stuff everywhere, fumbled snaps, offside. That doesn't happen with Peyton Manning and the Colts and Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. It just doesn't. There's no room for lackadaisical operation at all. It's incredible.
I want to ask you if you've seen this, because it was funny to me. So Sunday, I go to meet a group of people at the Miami Yacht Club to watch the game, the first game.
Fancy. Where's the Miami Yacht Club at?
It is not fancy. It is the opposite of fancy.
Okay.
It is literally the opposite of fancy. Okay. I'm going to take you there. It's open to the public, actually.
Oh, yeah.
For lunch. I'm going to take you there one day. It is literally the absolute opposite of fancy. But I went, there was a group of people there. I watched the first half of the Tampa game, and everyone was rooting for Tom Brady. Everybody. Then I went to my brother's house, my nephews and my 2 brothers, and we watched the second half of the game there. And then the second game, everybody's rooting for Tom Brady there. And I'm thinking to myself, man, how things have changed. I remember the game when the Giants made the Super Bowl and New England was, I guess, 18-0 going into that game.
Yeah.
And I went to a party and there wasn't a soul rooting for New England in that game, nor have people in Miami typically rooted for Tom Brady when he played for New England. But how that changed, he's like the sweetheart of South Florida now.
I don't know if it's the fact that he crossed the state line. Is that maybe might have been it? But I don't know. I think about it as, like, for instance, I saw something on social media about Roger Goodell. And ever since Roger Goodell has fined or suspended or taken something away from Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, like, Tom Brady has just defied all odds. It's something like ever since he's been suspended for deflating a football, he's like won I don't know how many games and how many Super Bowls and all this other stuff. It's like whatever you're trying to do to bring that man down, it's just not happening. It's not working. And when that man chooses to retire, and I've said this for the last 6-7 years, he needs to be the first NFL player to be crowned a Hall of Famer while currently playing. You know what I mean? You had Brett Favre, who obviously first ballot, no questions asked. Not that's obviously. But the way that Tom left an organization that is considered the dynasty of the NFL to go to a place where playoff implications were slim to none in the last 15 years, and then all of a sudden you're favored to win a Super Bowl or you're getting talked about. That's how much of a difference. That's how polarizing Tom Brady can be. And then you could get him to get guys off the couch and off of boats and out of partying and out of the club to come and join him on that mission. That's, aside from leadership and all of the accolades and the rings that man has won, it's got to be an absolute honor, like a real honor to play with a guy like Tom Brady. Like, people say, they tell their kids that I played with Kobe Bryant,
right,
or, I played with Michael Jordan.
Right.
There has to be some sort of cross to bear when you've shared the field with a guy like Tom Brady. And I don't ever want to put like people up on pedestals and, treat them as gods. But man, if there's somebody close in the game of football, and if you're a football lover, I don't understand how you could not mention Tom Brady's name in the same breath if you even shared the field with that guy. Like, I'll always say a story about Tom Brady coming to the Falcons because we ended up doing a weeks of practice together before we played against each other. And it was the only freaking week my wife showed up at practice to the point where her mother even flew up from Miami to Atlanta.
Really?
She attended the practice.
Really?
And then, after every practice, Tom would come by and whatever, we'd shoot the shit or shoot the breeze about it. And then all of a sudden, Tom would walk away, and then my wife would be like, he's skinny. And then my mother-in-law would be like, he's too skinny. But it was Tom coming tomorrow. Okay. Then they'll come back to practice. Of course. It's like, it's the only time my wife ever watched me play was when Tom was around. So there's just a certain kind of attraction, affinity, whatever it might be, to the game of football and Tom Brady. They have to be like synonymous when you mention, greatness.
He really transcends the sport.
He really does. Really does.
He really does. And you're right. I mean, I don't know what the rules are in terms of induction into the Hall of Fame. I know you have to be out of the game a certain period of time. I mean, I think as soon as he retires, they should just put him in the Hall.
Yeah.
I mean,
he has to bypass any kind of normal, any guidelines that the Hall of Fame, like I got to call Dave Baker, the president of the NFL Hall of Fame, be like, is there any possible way that this can happen? Like immediately after he hoists the Super Bowl trophy this year, like this. And I don't know, I'm not like a big, historic buff when it comes to the game of football, but has a quarterback, like when Brett Favre left Green Bay to go to Minnesota, they didn't win a Super Bowl.
No. I mean, they had a great team and they went to the AFC.
What about Joe Montana when he went to the Chiefs? They didn't win.
They didn't go to the Super Bowl, but he turned them into a play. No, none of those guys ever turned the team, as far as I can remember, into a Super Bowl team. Now they turned them into contenders, playoff teams,
but going all the way to the show.
No.
And then Steve Young, where did Steve Young end up going?
Well, Steve Young
from the 49ers to somewhere.
I don't remember.
Kurt Warner from the Rams came close, bringing the Arizona Cardinals.
Exactly. He took them to the Super Bowl.
He did, but they didn't win.
They didn't win it, right? He went from
Kurt went to the Giants
first.
And then he went to Arizona.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his career was probably what put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Was
the
that
greatest show on turf? Yes, absolutely.
And the end of his career being as successful in Arizona as it was. Yeah. But here's the thing with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got to play the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, the opposition is
and that 25-year-old gunslinger of a kid in Patrick Mahomes is, I mean, could he be the next guy that's in 10 Super Bowls? Could he be that guy?
As long as Andy Reid wants to coach and he keeps surrounding himself around people that want to win like that. Like that was one of the things that Bill Belichick had with the Patriots. Guys weren't making ridiculous amounts of money. They weren't hunting for that massive contract to be the highest paid whatever. They were happy with winning championships.
That's what Andy Reid, you think, is becoming?
I hope so. I really do hope so. And I think that once you start drinking that Kool-Aid and understanding that you have the opportunity to attend Super Bowls every year, you might not be, it's like, who said this? I think Pat Riley actually said this about, you could be the MVP of the NBA, but if you're not a champion, the hell's it worth? You could be the highest paid, like Giannis Antetokounmpo, the highest paid, NBA basketball, but you're going to have a hell of a lot of money. But if you're never going to win a championship, how can you be held and revered in the same conversation as one of the greatest to ever do it? So I think that as long as like Mahomes and Kelsey and Wisniewski and a few of the offensive linemen, and then you got that defense over there that's pretty badass as well, and all of the weapons and the tools that they got with the Chiefs, as long as they don't get greedy and everybody stays relatively healthy in one of the most dangerous games in the world, I don't see how they can continually not be that Patriots era of the 10, 12 years of football from the 2000s to like 2015.
Yeah, I agree with you. I see the Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl next week. I mean, we'll see, right? I wouldn't surprise
and Tommy's got Tampa, right?
Tommy's got Tampa. It wouldn't surprise me if Tampa won because of Brady, but I just look at the Chiefs, look at what they did. I was so, no pun intended, bullish on the Bills. halfway through the season. I just saw a team that was getting so much better, a quarterback that was getting better as the season went on. I saw them really gelling together, the Bills, and then the Chiefs just really destroyed them on Sunday.
Yeah. I saw you guys saw Diggs, right? Standing out there, the only guy out there watching it and taking it in. So I don't know about this, but the last couple of days, everybody's been like blowing up my phone. All the beat writers, the Adam Beasleys, the Barry Jacksons, all these guys are like, Romberg, is Dorsey coming? Is Dorsey coming? Is Dorsey going to be the next Dolphins offensive coordinator? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like,
so like you like Ken Dorsey would call you one day, hey, Brad, I'm coming to the Dolphins, but don't tell anybody.
Right, I know. So I was like, I ended up text Kenny, right? Because Kenny was going to come on the show today. He'll probably come on next week, to be honest with you. But today they're doing exit interviews and all that other stuff with the players and finalizing the year. And it's a little bit of a bittersweet moment because right now, obviously, all the hype is going into the Super Bowl, and you could have been that team going into the Super Bowl. And Ken Dorsey being that quarterback's coach,
Ken Dorsey,
the development that he gave. Well, that's what I
did
told
one
Kenny.
hell of a job.
Well, that's what I told Kenny. I was like, look, what you've done with Cam Newton, what you've done with Alex Morgan at FIU, and then shortly thereafter, what you've done with this kid Allen. I was like, I don't care if you come to the Dolphins or not. Like, I'm sorry, all you Dolphins fans. Would he be an amazing addition? Freaking yes, obviously. Take a look at what he's done in development-wise. But I'm not too concerned. I'd rather Kenny just be successful and be happy and doing whatever he's doing. So I had a conversation with him the other day, and I was like, hey, man, I'm not really too concerned if you're coming or not. I just want to talk to you about developing and how amazing you've done.
It's incredible.
It's an incredible resume. Like, if you think about it, like there was a point in time where Ken Dorsey wanted to be the University of Miami's coordinator or, a possible coaching position, and he wanted to be here, but they didn't want him here.
Really?
Yeah. So imagine, it's like he's been turned down many times, but yet he continues to Cam Newton, Alex Morgan at FIU, who went from Bowling Green throwing like 50 and 50 when it comes to interceptions, touchdown ratios, to 2 interceptions. And I think it was like 33 touchdowns for that Alex Morgan kid. Like, elevated that kid's game ridiculously. Yeah. Then he goes up with Dan Morgan and the Bills, and he's got this kid Allen, who's, fresh off of a draft year. The year
with
prior.
Horrible mechanics.
Bad mechanics. Looks very potentially great.
Yes.
Very potentially great.
No question.
And then Kenny gets up there and just becomes the guy's best friend, aside from Diggs, and just in his head, working with him, talking with him, night after night after night. And then all of a sudden, during a COVID year as well, this guy comes out as like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I don't know who or what NFL team has the opportunity to acquire Ken Dorsey at that young age. Like, you saw what Byron Leftwich is doing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I played with Byron in Jacksonville. If you were to tell me when we were playing together that Byron was going to be the offensive coordinator of a Super Bowl team, I'd be like, yeah, I don't think so.
Really?
Flat out. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, there was no way I would have thought that. And then, fast forward, he's quarterback coach over there with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then lo and behold, now he's in the Super Bowl as a revered offensive coordinator in the NFL. Yes. And I know everybody saw the whole, what was it? It was the 4 coordinators / coaches on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's like the first time ever that 4 black dudes have been the coordinators and the assistant coaches on an NFL organization, and they're attending the Super Bowl. So Keith Armstrong, the special teams coordinator and assistant head coach, I had him in Atlanta. He was also in the Miami Dolphins team as well.
Yes.
One of the greatest dudes I've ever met. And you want to talk about a guy that's going to push you and not put up with anything? Keith Armstrong's the guy. Byron is one of the most cool, calm, collected guys that I've ever been around, played with. Never in a hurry. Byron is never in a hurry. And I think that's probably what made him so advantageous as a coordinator. Just smart, methodical, nice and slow. I've never worked with the other 2 gentlemen. I've never had, because I know he was with Chicago, I think, when I was playing. The one defensive coordinator guy.
Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Great defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I played against him, obviously, but I've never, played for him. So 2 of the 4 guys that everybody's talking about on that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, I know very, very well. And my hat's off to those guys. And the fact that Byron and Tom played together, in terms of, like, I think, when did Tom come in the NFL? 2000, 2001?
About thereabouts.
And then me and Byron came in together in 2003. So imagine, Byron had an 8-year NFL career, 9-year NFL career maybe, after being the 7th pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Tom Brady is still taking teams to the Super Bowl. I don't know how many years removed from Byron Leftwich throwing a football. You know, it's like and Byron's the coach or the play caller. So I could imagine that relationship between Byron and Tom must just be freaking amazing. Velvet. So like Ken Dorsey and Allen, Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich, like that. The fact that Byron Leftwich is coaching Tom Brady, that is going to transcend Byron Leftwich's career, and it's going to make it last a long freaking time.
Yeah, and maybe
taking him to the Super Bowl.
And maybe catapult him to a head coaching job in the NFL.
If I see Byron Leftwich with an HC before it, I'm going to lose my mind. That'll be unbelievable. I thought the coordinator thing was out of control, but that's awesome. Young minds, man. The NFL is looking for them.
Here's where I have to disagree with you. My nipples get hard when I think of Ken Dorsey being the offensive coordinator
for the
teaching
Dolphins.
Tua Tagovailoa how to become an NFL quarterback. I get excited when I think about that because you just chronicled it. I mean, his success nurturing quarterbacks to greatness is chronicled. And we've got a one-year quarterback that everybody is now iffy about. Is Tua the answer? Is he not the answer?
People are regretting the decision of even getting, and they wanted Herbert now. Like,
right.
That's how bad it's gotten.
Exactly. I would love to see a guy like Ken Dorsey on the sidelines tutoring up Tua Tagovailoa.
And the thing with Kenny is he's the same guy that was the quarterback at UM. Like, there's a reason why Ken Dorsey was super successful at the University of Miami.
Why?
He would never leave his house to do anything out of the ordinary. Like, for instance, I don't think he could handle
and you guys were roommates together.
Yeah, we lived together for 2 years. I really don't think Ken Dorsey can tolerate what's going on at the University of Miami quarterback room wise. Derek King, yes. But what happened here in the last few years, I think Kenny would have probably left, to be honest with you. If they gave Kenny that quarterback's job / offensive coordinator job years ago when he wanted it, I don't think he would have been able to handle it or
maybe it wouldn't have been the way it is.
Definitely wouldn't have been the way it is. The poop show that was going on in that quarterback room was out of control. You had Mark Richt's son, who hasn't done anything ever other than pick guys up for the Buffalo Bills from the airport.
Right.
He was the quarterback coach. So imagine you can't have that guy kind of leading the way and tutoring everybody. So I think, obviously Ken's jump to the Carolina Panthers with Rob Chudzinski as a scout guy first, and then learning the game. And then all of a sudden working with the quarterbacks, developing Cam Newton, taking Cam Newton ultimately to the pinnacle of his career, all over the place. It got to the point where Cam Newton couldn't hit the side of a barn or understand playbooks before Kenny got there. And I'm not trying to like poke fun at Cam by any means, but it's 100% factual. You could ask Greg Olson, you could ask Shockey, you could ask all these guys. It was a very tough year, very talented for Cam Newton when he first got there, but wasn't exactly a student of the game at that point in time. Relied a lot on athletic ability, like a lot of the great ones do. And then Kenny became a professor with the guy. Like he literally, that's how Alex Garcia started out doing really, really well with the San Francisco 49ers.
Right.
Kenny was there, and Kenny helped Alex Garcia ultimately get working. You know what I mean? With the San Francisco 49ers. Or not Alex,
No,
not Garcia.
Jeff.
I'm mixing two people.
Alex Smith.
Yeah,
Yes.
not Garcia. Sorry.
Yes.
But yeah, like Kenny's resume is incredible. It really is an incredible.
Do you expect
resume.
to see him as a head coach in the NFL?
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
I can't imagine him not becoming a head coach.
100%. Kenny has had head coach written all over him since day one.
When you played with him back at the U back in, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Is it when you play with certain players, because you mentioned Byron Leftwich, you didn't see him as an offensive coordinator.
Right.
I mean, did you see Ken Dorsey back then as a guy who would be a coach? Because, he was a great college quarterback, but I don't know if he had the tools necessarily to become a great NFL quarterback. But did you see, because of the mind, because of his temperament, his disposition, he had the qualities?
Oh, yeah. And our coaches knew it. Like our coaches would say it because coaches can spot coaches. Coaches can spot just players. And every coach from, Butch to Pete Garcia to Larry Coker, Rob Chudzinski, all the guys that would be working directly with Kenny would say it all day long. Like, this guy's got coach written all over. The minute that he's done, and to the point where coaches would ultimately say, the minute you want to, just like what's going on with Greg Olson with the networks, the minute when you want to retire, you have a job in the booth. You can make millions of dollars in the booth. Just whenever you're done, I got a job for you. And I think that's ultimately what happened with Ken Dorsey was the minute that Kenny was done, Chudzinski had a job for him because he knows that Kenny is going to be an incredible worker. Like Ken, for instance, people don't realize this, but Ken would go home at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning during the week and be back in the office at 6 a.m. So he's 5-6 hour sleep guy, but has everything ready, ready to go Monday through Friday at the NFL facility. And that's just the work ethic that Ken Dorsey has. He doesn't want to leave any stone unturned. He's the giant clipboard guy, the X's and O's, the anticipation, knows the opponent inside and out. Like that's Ken Dorsey. So yeah, would the Dolphins be an absolute rock star team if Kenny showed up? I think their quarterback would be a lot better. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. And he finds ways to put guys in great position. Kenny does. Eliminates possible errors, possible mistakes, especially with a guy like Tua, that young in the tooth. Yeah, I think Kenny would be an amazing coordinator for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I'm seriously hoping that's what occurs. I mean, I've been reading, and you've been getting the calls from all the beat writers.
Yeah, they're all trying to figure it out.
They're all trying to figure it out. But that's the big rumor going. You know, who's going to be the next offensive coordinator?
Well, they're probably going to court him, right? They're going to get him down here.
I would think so.
Yeah, they're going to court him. They still got time. They got a little bit of time before, you know, the Super Bowl kicks off and stuff like that, before they start announcing who's the next guy's going to be. So I imagine they're in conversations with the agents and stuff. But Kenny, until I think it's after, I don't know what it is for coaches, but I know for players, the actual year is over with in March, the NFL year. So you can have communications, but as long as you're under contract with that current team you're with, you really can't be doing that tampering thing. It's like much like the NBA. So Today, like I said, is the Bills' exit day. The exit interviews, all the players go in, get their health screens, make sure that nobody's leaving with any injuries, anything crazy. And you hand in your book, you meet with your coach, your position coach, your coordinator. They tell you what they like, what they don't like. Are you going to be here next year, and what to work on in the offseason? And that's today for Ken Dorsey. So he's a little preoccupied with the Bills. Hopefully next week when we talk to him, he might have had a new contract or something. Either getting one up with the Bills or maybe he might be down here as the OC. Who knows? Yeah,
we'll see how that all pans out. I was curious as a player, is it a red flag that the Dolphins keep losing coordinators listen, I'm not complaining. The coaching, obviously Coach Flo has done an incredible job.
Right.
The rebuilding of the Dolphins, I mean, we saw it this year. The steps they took
ahead of pace. They're ahead of pace for sure.
Way ahead of pace.
Yep.
But I'm wondering, is that a red flag? I mean, last year we lost both coordinators. This year again, we're losing coordinators.
Well, I think a lot of that was probably, especially with Gailey, I thought it was just handled poorly. The fact that, ESPN is coming out and putting stuff out there about Gailey getting fired before Gailey actually leaving, you know what I mean? Or electing to retire. I think that's bad form. Somebody in the facility leaked something, and somebody made a phone call, an agent or whoever it might have been, letting the cat out of the bag. And even if they wanted to retain Gailey at that point in time, he was like, no, I'm done. I don't need this. I came out of retirement to come back and help this young man out, and I don't need this anymore.
So Shefty had on his Twitter a couple of days ago that the Seahawks want to interview Dorsey too for that OC spot. So do you go with Pete Carroll and Russell, or do you go?
Yeah, no, you go to Pete Carroll.
Flores and
you go to Pete Carroll in a heartbeat.
See, I disagree with both of you. I'll tell you why. Because I think Russell Wilson's already at the top, one of the top quarterbacks in the game. I think if you come to a team like Miami and a guy like Tua takes that step, man, you are a golden child. So I don't know. I always here I'll liken it to this. Years ago, when I was a manager in radio, they came with the person with Clear Channel who was in charge of the whole district said, "Hey, do you want to take as a general sales manager? Do you want to take WINZ?" And it was a dog with fleas. So I looked at it and said, the bar is so low.
Right. There's nowhere but up.
There's nowhere but up.
Well, here's the thing. Kenny knows coming into a hostile environment like the Miami Dolphins, and his allure, because being a former Cane and everybody would be loving watching him returning to Hard Rock Stadium. I'm not sure that challenge is what he wants this early in his career. Probably the competitor in him, yes. But you got a guy like Pete Carroll who he knows well. I know Clint Hurt over there. Clint Hurt, we all played together here at Miami. Clint is like almost to the point where he might be a GM relatively soon. You had Dan Morgan that was out there as well, working for the Seahawks. There's a lot of Kane lineage. Michael Barrow worked out there with the Seahawks for a long time. Damian Lewis, another defensive lineman we played with, is currently out there with the Seahawks as well. So that Miami product, the Seahawks know very, very well. And I think that Kenny, being a West Coast kid, state of California, Northern California, getting back to the West Coast, winning championship football, working with a guy like, imagine, it's like Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady, working with a guy like Russell. You know what I mean? Even playing with a guy like Russell. I think that would be a real nice getting the Seahawks back to the Super Bowl and then maybe vacating and entertaining another offer where it might be a little bit more challenging. So not necessarily riding coattails or anything like that.
Right.
But I think that if that option is there, and Seattle's going to pay you way more than the Dolphins will.
Yeah, you bring up all great points.
Yeah, I don't even need to be an agent to go ahead and steer Kenny that route. I'm sorry, Dolphins fans, but golly. Yeah, you're going to be putting the Seattle Seahawks up against the Miami Dolphins. I like Tom Garfinkel and I like Mr. Ross. And I'm sure Flores is running a badass ship over there. But when you got what is probably considered one of the best player-friendly coaches in the NFL,
that's true.
And his staff and the way that they run things over there, like they're out of the building by 5 or 6 o'clock, like mandatory. Like Pete Carroll wants you gone. Go back with your family. Pete's a very family-oriented man. And
you combine that with the fact that if you're coming in, you're being interviewed by Miami, you go, well, heck, these offensive coordinators aren't lasting more than a year in Miami. So that might have a little bit to do with it as well, right?
Totally, yeah. And then Kenny's a family man. His wife Jordan, and they got like 2 or 3 girls. So yeah, Kenny's like me, man. I don't want to be toting my family around every couple of years.
Yeah,
so
that's a consideration.
You know, and I know in terms of a city, Buffalo sucks. You know, sorry all you Bills fans out there, but I know that city. That city's horrible. So I know Kenny don't want to live there. He will if they pay him a boatload of money and give him a long contract.
Right.
But you could either pick, soggy Seattle, which closer to home, or you can pick, the bottom of the map. So that's cool. The 2 different locations that he's going to be looking at.
Yeah. Well, I just think his success developing quarterbacks and the fact that we have a young pup starting for us who clearly the Dolphins are moving forward with in Tua Tagovailoa, needing the sort of nurturing that he does as an NFL quarterback. It would be exciting to see Ken Dorsey back in South Florida.
I would. I'm sure a lot of the greedy, myself included, like I would love to hang out with Kenny again. We would love to go to dinners. His girls come play with my girls. My wife gets reunited with Jordan and stuff. And I think it would be great. And then Jordan could be hanging around back, doing things with the University of Miami. She was a soccer player at UM. So, and she's from the West Coast of Florida. She's from Tampa. So she'd be obviously closer to her family and that kind of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of a lot of tie-ins.
When it happens like this as a player or a coach, and you've moved from, you played for 3 different teams in the NFL. Is there a lot of those types of factors that come into play?
Support staff is key. And especially when you're going to a place like, for instance, like you mentioned, Kenny probably doesn't know a single person at the Miami Dolphins. He might have a guy removed from a guy, or I know this guy, or we might have worked together in a scouting department back in the day. But when you go out to Seattle, for instance, as an example, when you have 5 guys that you actually shared the field with in the locker room with before that can give you an honest answer about the way that things are, that's it. Like that's the end all be all. He'll have his interview with Pete. That'll be one thing with Carroll. But guess who's taking Dorsey to dinner that night or the night before or hanging out with him all day or showing him around? It's all the Canes guys that are over there. And the Canes guys are going to tell him straight up, like, this is the way it is. They're not going to fluff him at all. They'll tell him straight up the way it is. So mind you, I need to make some phone calls to like Clint Hurt and Damian Lewis and find out what's going on up there in Seattle. Now that I know that you're telling me that Kenny might be going up to Seattle. Whereas here, his familiarity is like, where? Like, what are you going to, and he's going to live up in Davie? Right. He doesn't know anybody in Davie. You know what I mean? That's like Fort Lauderdale, basically. So It's not like he's going to be down here in the Gables.
Right.
So,
true.
If he was, I'd be taking care of him. It'd be a nice little familiar place and a face. But yeah, Kenny, I don't know, man. If those are my 2 options, yeah, I'm going Seattle all day long.
All right, so we got Becht.
Oh, Anthony Becht's coming.
Yep, he's on.
Oh, awesome.
Let's bring him in.
Let's bring Anthony back in. Anthony, thanks for joining us on Romberg and Korge.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Fantabulous. Now that I get to see all them jerseys behind you, you got one of probably the best backdrops I've ever seen when it comes.
I was trying to. Let me see if I can get this squared out here for you.
You're gonna center it up for me. Yeah, because you know the upward angle thing is not a good thing though, right? Especially with guys like us.
I can't. I want people to see the name, and then stuff like that. So that becomes important. I got on this side. Let me see, Kansas City Bucks. Look at that, just for the show today. So
I like it. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So Kansas City or Bucks? Who does a guy like you root for?
I root for the Bucks. Listen, I played here. It's the second longest tenured team I played with. I was working with them doing their pre and post for a few years after I retired, and then of course do the Jets now full time. But look, I cover them down here. My son is born, raised most of his life down here in Tampa, so diehard Tampa fans, and it's been great to watch. It's been surreal for a lot of the folks down here. To think a guy that I hated for 12 years of my career. All of a sudden now I embrace the guy in a Tampa Bay uniform. But, he's done it humbly, at least in the public eye. I'm sure when he goes home to Giselle, he's high-fiving thinking, man, look at all these weapons and all this. I'm a baller right now, but it's been fun to watch. It's been really cool.
Anthony, honestly, like we were talking about it earlier in the show. You watched Tom Brady at the end of last season, and you watched him putter and throw ducks and overthrows. And I know part of that is the fact that the Patriots never really gave him much, not many options that the Patriots might have had. But how much of a difference has the weapons from Tampa been this year? And do you see that there's a little bit more pep in the step? Like, has TB12 had like the COVID vaccine injected in him now for about 9 months? Like, what is going on with TB12 that he looks so much better? Or is it just a perception of that because of the weapons?
Yeah, I'm sure TB12 has an IV drip with the vaccine in it where he can get it before anybody else. But, listen, Brett, I mean, when you got towards the end of your career and myself, 12 seasons for me, I felt old and battered. This guy came out of the same draft class as me in 2000. And I've been out of the league for 8.5 years. And I feel like I played a long time. So it's remarkable what he's done from a time standpoint. The weapons for sure. I mean, let's be honest. I pose this question to a lot of folks that I talk to because I think it brings validation to how great he is. If you were to pick, let's just say the 4 quarterbacks in the AFC and the NFC Championship, Brady, Rodgers, Allen, and Mahomes, I mean, clearly from a rising standpoint, you're probably saying, well, I'm going to put my money on Mahomes in general for the future. But think about what Mahomes and Allen and Rodgers, for the most part, do from the quarterback position. They create. They get out of the pocket. They extend plays. If you had to pick one of those 4 guys to if you told them you can't leave the pocket your entire career and you have to read the defense, diagnose, get your progressions out, and just carve defenses up without ever running, extending, who would you pick? I mean, it's Tom Brady, right? I mean, he's the guy.
All
day long, right? So, and listen, the offensive line, to be quite honest with you, has been probably the best in the NFL. Think about watching Rivers and Roethlisberger and also watching a guy like Breeze. Just they look older. They've got injuries. They've taken hits. Tom has for the most part stood straight this year, and it's remarkable because he's probably one bad hit away from potentially missing games if that's the case. So this offensive line and, their rookie right tackle, Tristan Wirfs, to me is an all-pro as a rookie. And Donovan Smith, who's been up and down, who makes a ton of cash, is really living up to the expectation because of what's warranted in that room across the board. So it's been fun to watch, and I know you can take some pride watching the offensive line as well.
Absolutely. I love the Fat Boys. And then when it comes to a guy like Tom Brady, maybe you can elaborate on this a lot more than others. Is Tom doing the same Army general directing traffic as he's done with the Patriots, or do they really rely on the center position and some of the offensive linemen over there to go ahead and make their own assumptions?
Well, Ryan Jensen's a smart cat at the center position. So, it's really just confirmation probably for both guys.
By the way, might be one of the bad body. Like he looks like he's a very bad body center. Like I've had a bad body center experience with St. Louis, but he's taken, and the fact that he's a ginger, he's taken the cake. Like I think
the ginger separates him for sure.
Totally.
My daughter's a beautiful ginger, but for a guy like him, you're right. It's not a great bad.
Pasty pale skin. Yeah, it's bad.
It is. Look, you can't fool Tom Brady, right? That's not how you go in there trying to beat Tom Brady. It's really you have to get pressure with 4. That's what you have to do, especially for all these quarterbacks, Mahomes, Rodgers. If you can't get home with 4, odds are they're going to pick you apart. And that's been really stood out for the Bucs is, Shaq Barrett and JPP have played at an extremely high level. And then you put Vita Vea in there, and now there's a problem. So, with no tackles, starting tackles available for the Chiefs, you saw what Bakhtiari not playing.
Yeah.
That was huge too. With JPP took advantage of that. They're going to do it again. I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's when in the game. So that's something Mahomes has to worry about. And really, there's no blueprint, right, for beating Mahomes. I mean, you get up early, you lose. You get to him or you force an interception, you still lose. So what's it going to take? I mean, you're going to have to sack him at least minimum 3 times in the game, and you're going to have to force, in my opinion, 2 turnovers to clearly beat this football team. And can the Bucs defense do it? I think they can, but again, it's not just quarterback versus quarterback. They find ways to win, and it's hard to bet against the Kansas City Chiefs, but it's also, we know just in general betting against Brady is tough as well.
What about the temperature over there? Like, you got the East Coast of Florida over here. You're on the West Coast of Florida. Super Bowl. We were both together last year this time, enjoying the festivities on South Beach at the Lowe's there with the NFL Legends Hotel. We were talking about getting ready to enjoy another year of Super Bowl festivities. Your wife obviously doing a lot of work with the NFL Wives. You got your hands full doing everything over there, not only, hosting, but obviously this is your city as well. So what is the plan? What is the temperature of the atmosphere, the influx of fans? Like, I know there's only going to be allowed, like, general public wise, 13,000 and change over at that stadium. So has it been as electric as of yet, or are we anticipating any kind of fun festivities, or what's going on?
Yeah, the party list is definitely shortened this year. We're not going to have a wide array of Maxim and ESPN parties to go to, and Drew Rosenhaus event, all those kind of players.
Right.
I mean, it's just not happening. I would say the buzz is there because it's a home game, right, for Tampa. So there's a general home team buzz. But listen, guys, I mean, there's the Legends community, NFL Legends, who I'm a part of. We're not having any events; it's all virtual.
Right.
The Trust is not having any events, which is part of the players' side. The NFLPA party's not going on. I mean, that kind of stinks because a lot of guys are texting me, "Hey, what's going on? Let's get some things going on, and what parties are available? Get us access. Can we get in here?" I'm not getting a lot of those, those texts anymore. So. Look, the NFL experience is going to be up and running. We're going to head down there next week for that. That's always good. They'll have their games and things that they do, and that'll be a positive, be spread out. There's a lot of great areas too around Tampa that they really had some big plans for. They really built up a lot of areas in preparation for the Super Bowl as well. Again, locally, that will be fun, but. I just don't know how many folks are coming in. You talked about the limited tickets. I mean, you have those 13, 14,000 plus the 7,500 healthcare workers that are going to be able to go there as well. It's just, it's a really tough ticket for the Super Bowl. You've seen some of the prices that are for the tickets right now, and people want to go, but man, it's hard to really fathom that and swallow that pill. But I think the buzz is there from a town's perspective, but and I know just when you went to Miami or you go LA, wherever that Super Bowl is, it just doesn't have that same kind of pop just because of the events aren't going to be going on as much.
And what about the Super Bowl trophy? Does that have the same kind of pop this year? Is it like coming with an asterisk? Because I've been watching a lot of sports over this COVID period and the NBA bubble, whether it's the Miami Heat getting to the NBA finals, which was a shocker for everybody down here. And then we're seeing the product of the Miami Heat shortly thereafter. And it almost became like an asterisk of the Miami Heat getting to the NBA finals, or the NHL, or even the MLB for that matter. It just seems like this year alone, winning a championship just feels different.
So, you speak of the NBA. I mean, there was some adversity for them, obviously, because they had to be somewhere, but they were universally all in the same place. So, whether that affected or not, the hot team that helped, so be it. I think from an NFL's perspective, not having any fans, in my opinion, kind of evened the bar a little bit for a lot of these teams. So you really did get a true kind of test week in and week out. I mean, we haven't seen Kansas City blow a lot of teams out this year. They really haven't covered a lot of spreads. So, it's just, I think it has been a little more parity across the board. And I think you really do. I don't think you put an asterisk on it. I think it's actually, you're getting a team that had to go through. And look, think of the amount of things that teams had to go through because their schedule really hasn't changed as far as they're still traveling, they're still going to stadiums, they're doing everything they normally do. There's just no fans. So the fact that the NFL was able to get the season, get it completely through without missing any weeks. I had to push a couple games, a couple weeks during the season to the middle of the week. But I really think it's actually a sign of truly who the better teams are because of the adversities of doing everything else without the fans in the stadium. So that's how I look at it. But the product was good. I thought week in and week out there was some enjoyable games. I think the playoffs have been great, and I really do expect a great game. Come a little under 2 weeks.
So, Andy, I don't know if you know this, but Andy's obviously he's Italian, just judging by the look on him. And usually Italians in sports, they might want to put wagers on some of these games.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting across
from. You may know a guy, right?
Yeah. So Anthony's got a guy. And I remember having a couple conversations with him sitting across on the other aisle of the plane where, he's talking about spreads and points and all this other stuff. What have you noticed in terms of the gambling world? And I imagine you keep your eye on it with you and the spit and fire thing you got going on right there with Grassa, right? You got a spit and fire, AnthonyBecht.com. Check him out, by the way. But I'm sure you guys have some of your sponsorships is a lot of the betting world. So how has like you mentioned, lack of fan base and home field advantage, how has that affected the gambling world?
It's been big, right? I mean, it's really carried a lot of the casino business. For the most part, not being able to go here or there. You see all these new states, every couple months, every 6 or 12 months, they start getting into their platforms and being able to gamble. I hope here in Florida at some point, the Seminole tribe and the state, and hopefully not the lottery, we'll get something brewing in Florida because I think it's great. It just brings, more people. There's more fans probably in general that watch random games just because of gambling than actual, fans that dial in for their team. So I think it's big. I think it's huge. I think it's fun. Obviously there's an aspect that it affects people in a negative connotation, but it also brings a lot of people together in the sports world as far as, all the sports. So it's been big. We talk about it, the spreads, and, people want to know. There's a ton of shows on right now that are specific to it. It's a trend that's getting stronger and stronger. It's not a secret anymore. So, but once we see it across every platform, every state, it's only going to grow and grow. So, I mean, when you're talking about billions of dollars, in that world now legally, of course, and for those states right now that are quote unquote got a guy that are doing it illegally, there's a lot of money floating around, in that aspect.
Anthony, I'm curious about something. Can you talk about what an accomplishment it is for Tom Brady to be in his 10th Super Bowl? You're a guy that played in the NFL for 12 years, as you said. I mean, imagine playing in 10 Super Bowls. Is that something you think we'll ever see? Is that something maybe Patrick Mahomes might accomplish at some point?
Yeah, I think Mahomes could do it. Absolutely. It's going to be hard. I mean, it's not like a shoo-in.
Right.
Listen, I don't miss playing the game. I don't know how Brett feels about this. I know he's got a nice boat and stuff like that, so he's having fun with his family. But I tell you, when the playoffs come around, I get jealous, because I was never able to get to the big championship game and the NFC or AFC championship on the other side. I got close, but never was able to get over the hump. And of course, the Super Bowl, it brings chills to me when those players get on the stage and they hold up that trophy. It's kind of surreal for me as a former player. I don't get that feeling when I watch games, but the playoffs get to me a little bit. And to think a guy got there 10 times and you say it just seems easy, but he's the greatest that ever lived. I mean, the conversation I think is past the greatest quarterback or the greatest football player. It's now all sports. Is he the greatest? And when we say athlete, we're not talking about shuttle drills and vertical jump. I'm talking about just a sporting athlete that ever. I mean, he might not have the world acclaim as Michael Jordan, but people know Tom Brady. I mean, across all continents. So it's impressive. I give him a lot of respect. It's to come down to a team that was 7-9 last year, guys, basically with the same players. I mean, add a few. This team's in the Super Bowl because of Tom Brady. So it's come together, and it's not just his play on the field. It's really his play. What he brings to the table off the field. Guys are picking his brain, asking him how to train, asking him, what it takes, all those little details and questions that, quite frankly, I couldn't give this team. They just didn't know how to win, and I never made it to the Super Bowl. So that kind of information is priceless to players. And, they're getting a little taste of it now. And it has to be done this year, guys, because, there's no guarantees next year. Contracts change. Other players change. Tom Brady, anything can happen from an injury standpoint. You knock on wood. But look, Father Time will catch up to him. I probably see him, if he walks out on top, it would be shocking to me when he actually feels like at that moment. But if he keeps doing what he's doing, it's going to be hard for him to justify it. That's why I feel like Father Time's going to catch up to him one season where he's probably not going to go out the way he wants. So I hope he does it, makes that decision properly. But it's been truly amazing to watch a guy go to 10.
Real quickly, are the people in Tampa, like when Brady signed with Tampa, my thought was, well, he's going to, the playoff team. Maybe he's like Joe Montana. He went to Kansas City. They became a playoff team, but they could never quite get to the big game with Joe Montana. And I viewed it the same way. Are people in Tampa kind of surprised that they're playing in the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, I think the big surreal part was just him being on the team. People kind of talked about, well, it was never Super Bowl or bust. It was, for me, it was, minimum 11 wins and get to the NFC Championship. And they did both of those things. I think this is kind of like, the gravy now, the icing on the cake per se. So, people I wish more fans can embrace it from an aspect of being able to go to the home games during the season and watch this team live and the fan. Because I remember, playing 2 playoff games here in Tampa. It was electric. It was two of the best experiences of, my long career. And, I really embraced it. So to not have the white flags waving and everything on your corner, that was probably the most disappointing thing for fans. But it's starting to catch on. I mean, listen, next week when we lead into it, there's more talk, more shows, in the national perspective. Now it's on daytime TV. People are talking about this now because of what the week brings. It's going to be magnified even more.
As a fan, man, I'm almost feeling saddened, honestly, listening to you talk about finally a city after, 18 years now, having a Super Bowl come to it, and it's the year of COVID, and I'm sure you could probably say that just about every other organization. But it's saddening to me. Like you have a generation, ultimately 20-year generation that have grown up with a losing franchise, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have your opportunity to play in the Super Bowl, and you have a guy in your backyard that you could go to attend a game and watch one of the greatest to ever do it, or the greatest to ever do it, throw a football around, spin a football around, and you miss the opportunity because of freaking COVID. That's got to be one of the biggest kick between the legs. And then on top of that, I'm getting sad here. And then, so I'm going to try to pick it up here. So I'm going to ask you a question that I told Andy at the beginning of our conversation. If you had the opportunity, Anthony, in your 12-year career to take minimum wage as opposed to taking, a nice monster deal, to go play for Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and the New England Patriots, because you're almost guaranteed a possibility at playing in a Super Bowl, would you have taken it as a player? Now hearing your passion and the fact that you missed the game, and to honestly, to answer your question or to answer your comment about, I still, and I'm not even, I am an American now, but listening to the national anthem, it reminds me of standing on a sideline and literally Moreno, tears coming down his eyes, and that pinnacle of your moment of your career, that denouement, if you will, if you want to say it in French, it's such an emotional moment for me personally. Like, I'll hear the national anthem still to this day, and I almost get emotional hearing it. And I think it's really because of the game of the football. That's the only other reason how I can correlate that moment and that feeling and that passion of getting ready to basically for 3 hours give everything you got to go fight against somebody, and another team and another organization, and all that hard work, the culmination going to that point. So sorry for my long running question, but would you take the minimum to play with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick to get that opportunity as opposed to picking a big contract up?
So when they were in New England, yeah. Well, look, I tried many times to go to New England. Be quite honest with you.
Really?
I wanted to go there.
Yeah, you fit the mold over there pretty good for the tight end before, obviously, the Gronkowski. But yeah. You definitely fit the mold as a bigger tight end and a guy that can catch and block.
Yeah, well, and to be quite honest, I was drafted by Parcells, the GM at the Jets, my rookie year, and that was a mentality that I came up with. That Al Groh took over. It was the same things that Bill Parcells did, that, that hard, tough love, negative reinforcement, put your head down and grind. And that kind of molded me as a player. And I absolutely, that was all over that possibility of happening. It just didn't work out. I actually tried to do it too with Philly, with Andy Reid, because I'm from Philly, playing with an Andy Reid, because I just, felt like there was great opportunities when he was coach, and going back home but he never wanted a blocking tight end. Like, he chose to have a poor blocking tight end. Like, that's what he told our agent. Like, he said he liked me. He said he loved what I did, but he said he didn't want a dominant blocking tight end. He truly wanted a guy that could literally run, two guys that could run. And that's what you basically saw out of them for many years. But absolutely, I would have done it. Yeah, no question. To get that chance to be under that kind of week-to-week detail and grind, that was me. I mean, when I came, I don't want to disrespect that time, but I mean, it was clear to you and evident to me when I came to St. Louis, and you guys, it was a very young team.
It was a poop show. You don't have to sugarcoat anything, man.
It was.
Anthony's trying to show. He's trying to save his face right now. But yeah, we literally had P.F. Chang's. Like, we were getting like pizza sent in, and P.F. Chang's. Like, it wasn't a good atmosphere. It was bad.
It wasn't. But I actually I wanted to go to the special teams meeting because I liked hearing some of the stuff, and I wanted to go to some of the other meetings because it was amazing to me how, this is a losing culture. Like, I had not been part of a losing culture like that. So I learned a lot that year. And I got to play with my buddy Bolger, who I played with in college. But, and of course, after that year, that's when myself and, I don't want to put myself in the same breath as these guys, but it just correlated. Torrey Holt, Big O, Trent Green, all those guys were removed from the roster, and they kind of started things over. And they built around guys like you, the younger linemen, and the guys that have bright futures in front of them.
The youth movement,
the youth movement. But to sort of play on what Brett just said regarding Belichick, is Andy Reid that next coach you think that the players are going to maybe gravitate to maybe try to get to that Super Bowl or win that championship? Is Andy Reid that guy now, you think?
What I like about Andy is, and Brett knows coaches, coaches are egotistically don't want to change their ways. I think Andy, it was a blessing, as much as he didn't deserve to get let go by Philly. It was also a blessing for him to really kind of dig deep and become even more of an innovator, right? I mean, he's so creative offensively, and he really does build his offense around the great players that he has. I don't know if the draw is more Andy Reid, but more Patrick Mahomes. I think that's kind of the success, long-term success that players would look at. From an NFC side, I mean, some of the good coach, like Kyle Shanahan, to me, has really done a nice job. I mean, you talk about doing more with nothing, and just, his scheme, the way they run, they're aggressive, and they have value. I think that's a coach that players would like to play for. AFC wise, I mean, McDermott's a guy that, Dable is an offensive coordinator that I really like. You look at the quarterbacks and you want to really gravitate towards young quarterbacks that are up and coming, and he's probably the guy. I mean, in the AFC, that's
what about Dorsey? What about Dorsey and the Bills, Allen kid? Because they're talking about getting Dorsey down here to reunite him.
Yeah, no, Dorsey's done a great job. Ken's a really good coach. He's been around some good coaches, and he's worked his way up. And yeah, anytime you can have those kind of quarterbacks on your coattails, you become a wanted guy because of the system, number one, and the progress of the position. So I like Allen. I think he's a great player, and teams will go to Buffalo or wherever. So it's just it's. I think it's more driven by players. Like, for instance, you look at Baltimore Ravens, like, they're a team that's going to be a perennial playoff team. But if you're a receiver, I don't know how much you would want to go to an offense like that. So it's just kind of goes that way. But you look at some of the creative things that Andy Reid does, for sure, that's a destination that players would like to play for.
Before you tell us about timeshare compliance, are you as shocked as I was to realize that Byron Leftwich is an offensive coordinator in the NFL for a Super Bowl organization? Because Byron came out with me. We went to Jacksonville the same year together. Obviously, Byron was the 7th pick. And, Yeah, we used to have Cruise Day Tuesdays on motorcycles. Me and Jimmy Smith and him, and it's like, hey man,
guys changed, Brad. I mean, come on, they're not the same guys their rookie year, for crying out loud. I mean, I'm not going to throw the guy under their bus because he went on the booze cruise with you after every Monday morning lift during the week. No, listen, I'm surprised. Listen, I think Byron is growing. To say BA's putting him out there like he's worthy to be a head coach right now. I don't know if that's the case.
Right.
I think in particular this year was a little bit of a learning experience for him too, because you're coaching and you're calling plays for a guy that's older, more experienced, much more experienced than you are. It's just a weird situation. So his time will come. I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, you got Tom Brady. He's learned a ton this year as well. I mean,
right.
To see what they were doing offensively and the way Bruce likes to do things, he's one of those guys that wants to do it his way, and that's what Byron's been taught. And you've seen the evolution of the offense a little bit, and I think it's made Byron better as a play caller and just understanding how things go down. And he's learning a ton, just like BA's changed a little bit and allowed Brady to do a little more offensively on what works for him. So I think it actually has sped the process up to help him. But you're right. I mean, look, he's young and he's up and coming. I'm not going to give him a ton of credit, although this is BA's system and I don't know how the plays get. I mean, Byron's calling the plays, and it looks like BA has final say on certain situations. But Byron's in the right path. I mean, he's around the greatest, and that's only going to propel you. Look at Adam Gase hanging with Peyton Manning. I mean, that guy clearly got a couple.
Oh God, that's made him about $40 million over the last 5 years.
Yeah, pretty much. He made a phone call, picked it up, called those two owners, and Adam Gase had a job. Even after he got fired, he had a job. So that's the remarkable thing about playing with the greats.
Yeah, it's
so what I'm hearing is that maybe players were going to New England not so much for Belichick, but more so for Brady.
I mean, what players were going to New England? Who did they have that were the
guys at the end of their career, like players that wanted to go there to
Randy. What about Randy and
so Randy made sense maybe? Because Randy was just special for a long period of time, but Ocho and some of these other guys that your guy from Miami that was with the Colts. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank receiver wise.
With the Spanish last name was it
the receiver from the Colts?
Les Welker? You talk about Les Welker?
Welker, maybe?
No, Miami Hurricane receiver.
Oh, Barrios from the Jets?
No, like back when Marvin Harrison played.
Oh, Reggie Wayne.
Reggie Wayne. Didn't he go to New England for a minute? Try it?
First of all, did you just call him Wedgie?
Wedgie.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Wedgie. I was going to be like Wedgie Wayne. I like Wedgie. Wedgie.
No, I'm saying, but you see guys did try to do it, but there is an expectation that, listen, man, you got to kind of throw your accolades at the door and buy in. So
got it.
They're kind of more of a, they create their own kind of, their offensive linemen over the years outside of a few have been creative guys. I mean, small school guys undersized that, Dante Scarnecchi's one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL. I mean, he's not there anymore, but he developed a lot of linemen and, you get a couple guys, but I just think, they got a lot of homegrown products. And I think that's why Brady, making the decision to leave, understood like, man, I'd like to play under some talent. I think it puts more perspective, to be quite honest, with what Brady's done in his career,
right.
Especially being away from Belichick now. I mean, Todd Bowles pretty good coordinator too defensively. It looks like they're doing okay. So, Tom Brady brings an element. This team was 7-9 last year, guys, with basically the same roster.
Got it. So tell me about timeshare compliance really quick, because I know you've been on long enough.
No, yeah. So I've teamed up several months ago with Timeshare Compliance. You can check them out at timesharecompliance.com. I appreciate you putting them up there, and see that number. Dial the number and listen. I've had a timeshare in my over my career that I kind of got into just kind of not understanding what I was getting into. Really, a lot of high maintenance fees. Folks get trapped into these things. And all of a sudden, there's these thousands of dollars over the years that add up that they really don't pay, that they shouldn't be paying for. And number two, every time they try to go somewhere, the hotel or the resort is never available, and they just can never use it, and they end up just paying it over time. And then also, folks don't understand this thing. When you pass away, your kids, it's their problem, and it's somebody else's problem after that. So, what Timeshare Compliance does is they pick and choose. Folks, hundreds of thousands of contracts that help people get out of them because they were lured in the wrong way. And it's a great company. I don't put my name on many, but they actually helped me personally with one that I just thought it was a atrocity that I got involved with. And they've done a really good job. So I teamed up with them, and during the Super Bowl, we're going to do some plugs, but dial that number 877-760-9323 if you have a timeshare that you're really just disgruntled about and you want to remove. And they do a great job. They've never not lost a case on removing one, but they do not pick and choose. They do not pick all the cases. So hopefully, if you're having an issue, you can check them out. Call that number or go to Timeshare Compliance. And just super, super great people out of the California area that really do take care of business and help people.
Awesome. And if everybody wants to stay a little bit closer to the Super Bowl discussion, obviously follow Becht and Grassa on their Spit and Fire podcast. And you guys, and you can also obviously follow Anthony as well over there on Anthony_Becht on both
Twitter.
IG and Twitter as well. Right. So perfect.
Yep.
Thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate it. I know it's last second and everything. And I obviously, pulled one out here. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Man. I appreciate it. I enjoy it. It was good to catch up with you at the Super Bowl. I know we're like a rock away
Right.
Alligator Alley to see each other, but I'm glad to see you're doing well, man. You look good. You're keeping the weight off. I can't say the same for me. That's why I'm wearing black for most of these interviews. It just looks good. I'm just trying to suck my chin out as much as I can. So,
extend the neck.
Grow a beard or stick the neck.
That's what I did. That's what I did.
I hear you, brother. I hear you, Andy. No
Every
doubt.
chin needs a pillow, brother. Every chin needs a pillow. There's nothing wrong with that. But
all right, guys. So well,
likewise.
Thanks,
have a good
Anthony.
day.
Well, there you go, man. We got that perspective right from Tampa.
Yeah. That was. I think it's imperative because boots on the ground. I think whether you're investing or you're looking to go somewhere or learn more about something, the boots on the ground thing is always key for me. So, I really enjoyed Anthony's insight as well on that because he knows a hell of a lot about not only the Bucs, the organizations, but the coaching staffs and the regimes, and obviously a lot about players. I know Anthony, like no secret, Anthony wants to get into coaching. Like Anthony, he had a little taste of it with his son. His son's name is Rocco. I'm sure if people Google Rocco Becht or whatnot, they'll be able to see like badass highlight videos of his son.
Well, with a name like Rocco, I should hope so.
Yeah, there's certain names. Like when guys name their kids, I remember when I was playing with a bunch of guys in the locker room and they're, my son's name's Gunner. And I remember, I think Gus Farrat had a son named Gunner. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, that kid's got to be a football player, right? Like he's either got to be a pitcher or a quarterback.
Right.
Like, there's no way that you're going to name your son Gunner if he's not going to be an athlete.
Right.
And then Becht obviously named his kid Rocco. Well, he's Italian, Hey,
Yeah.
Rocco, hey. But and he's from Philly,
Yes.
Becht's from Philly. So, but yeah, man, his kid is incredible, like incredible. And I know him and his wife Dee, and they got a daughter as well. I think they just got two, one of each, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they got their hands entrenched over there in Tampa. He was actually trying to recruit me to go move over there, which I was all for. I wanted to move there even before Tom.
Really?
And then my wife heard that Tom was moving there. She was like, maybe we can I was like, come on, man. Come on, man. No. Wow. But yeah, Tampa's a really cool community, obviously, and they have their little Cuban community over there as well.
Yeah, the Tampa's beautiful.
Yeah. And
beautiful.
It's a lot cheaper.
Ybor City, yeah, much. Does it, what was interesting to me, what he said was, playoffs roll around and his sort of blood starts circulating again.
That's weird.
And do you feel that at all?
No,
not at all, right?
No, I honest to God, I don't know if it was like, for instance, a lot of guys, they'll tell you that they left everything they had on that football field when they left the game. And luckily for me, the year before I retired, when the Falcons kind of cut me because they drafted a new center in, obviously that's not the way you want to retire, or that's not the way you want to end a career or by injury. And luckily for me, I got that phone call when the starting center, because they didn't feel like the younger guy was ready yet. So I had to go back and play another year. So I got my year in, and I had probably the greatest time. And then the coaching staff.
That last year?
Oh, yeah. And the coaching staff told me, they're like, you've elevated your game. I don't know whether you just don't care anymore. Like the pressure of football itself, of being perfect and earning a roster spot or being the starting guy. That pressure that accumulates on you since you've been a kid, like literally, we have to be the best since we're a kid. it is what it is. You get patted on the back a little bit, you get conversations here and there about how great you are, and you get that craving of success and being the best. And it's just constantly, you have to be the best. You have to outshine. You have to be perfect. And that stress level takes a toll on your play. Like when you're nervous about something, you tend to play slower. Your brain doesn't work as much. You're hesitant. You get smoked. You're not as fluid. And that last season in the NFL, coaches were telling me, they're like, man, even Bill Belichick, actually Bill Belichick said it to me when we were walking off the field, after one practice. And he was like, Brett. And I was like, hey, how's it going, coach? He goes, looking good this year. And I was just like, this guy watches.
Why? Because
everything.
did you just and I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you didn't quite care as much.
No. Well, that year, no, I didn't.
Right.
I'm basically stealing money at this point in time. Like I'm literally playing football, and I'm playing now. Like I'm not riding the pine.
Yeah.
I'm playing my last year, and I was just carefree, man. I was making a good amount of money. And part of it, my wife stayed in Miami, so I was up there solo dolo, like I was back in college again, you know. And I was just free to be. Like I felt free, to be honest with you. And Fridays were fun as hell. Saturdays, travel days were great. I never had to really, answer phone calls about where I was or what I was doing and all that other stuff. Me and Tony Gonzalez, basically, I was hanging with Tony the whole time, hanging out, having a beer or two, and we were tailgating in the parking lot after the games.
Really?
Oh yeah,
like
underneath the stadium.
Really?
We come out of our games, and it was like we called it parking lot pimping. And literally, I had coolers in the back of the car. Tony had his, and hell, the GM would come and hang out with us. And it got fun, man. It got really, really fun. And I was excited. It loosens
things up.
And I feel like I ended it the way I wanted to end it, and I was happy. And I was going to do one more year, and then I was just like, no. And then I'm going to break my leg or snap something, and I'm going to be limping the rest of my life. And
right.
I'm like, no, I think we're good.
And that's a consideration, right?
Well, that was the main driving force. And then obviously I had the Widowmaker. Like, thank God I didn't play because I would have dropped dead on a football field. But yeah, that had the Widowmaker that spring. So
the other thing that Anthony Becht said to us during that interview, which was interesting to me, and I wonder if this is common among players, is he wanted to go to Philadelphia to play in his hometown. And as a player, as you become seasoned and you've been in the league, let's say 5, 6, 7 years, do you start going to your agent and saying, hey, I want to play here, or I want to be over there? Is that a common thing for players?
Hell yeah, because
it's not about who wants you, it's about you want them.
Yeah. I literally, and I don't know why, I wanted to go back to Detroit.
Really?
I wanted to play for the Lions. Growing up as a kid, watching the Lions and seeing whether it's Kramer kicking footballs, Barry Sanders. Hell, it was like I was almost giddy when and Scott Mitchell was the quarterback for a little bit back then too. I remember I was almost giddy when my locker was next to Mike Compton in Jacksonville. Mike Compton, big old West Virginia redneck, bald-headed dude, played with the Patriots for a long time. He was the guard, and I think Damon Woody was the center. And then since Damon Woody didn't know how to shotgun snap, Compton would go to center and snap the football. But I remember that name Compton because obviously NWA when I was in Canada was badass when I was a kid. I just thought it was like the coolest thing in the world.
Right.
And then the fact that they came from Compton, and there was a white dude with a visor on the offensive line for the Detroit Lions with the name Compton on his back. I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. So when Mike Compton showed up in Jacksonville, and I'm like lockered right next to him, and he's chewing tobacco and he's spitting in a cup, and I was just like, I'm sitting next to Mike Compton from the Detroit Lions, a guy that I used to watch when I was a kid. It's like there's that. What is that called? The nostalgia feel, I guess.
Yeah.
There's that nostalgic feeling of, and then you could have your family watch you play, and you could have your friends come and watch you play, and they're watching you in a uniform that you grew up watching. So I think there is, once you get a few years in and you're seasoned and you got a little bit of money in the bank and you have that opportunity to do so, I think a lot of guys would go crave that.
Want to go back to their hometown.
Yeah. And it's ironic because leaving high school, I wanted to go as far as humanly possible from where I grew up. I wanted to do something that nobody has ever done and just find something as far away from home as possible. And then I don't know if it's that gravitational pull, man, that just wanted me to go back and play for the Lions. And then I had my friends in my ear that were Lions fans, like, hey, the center here, they didn't really like Dominic Raiola. and they were like, "Hey, man, you need to come back and play for the Lions and all this other stuff." But Raiola is like the OG over there of the Detroit Lions. I think he's actually working with the team now. So, but yeah, Dom was a really good center.
Well, it's interesting. We're gonna cut this show.
Yeah, man. I thought it was a great show.
It was great today. I mean, having Anthony here with us was fantastic. Yeah. We're really getting a feel for what's going to be a very unusual Super Bowl this year.
I don't know, man. It's like, and I'm not a Super Bowl attender. Like I've said this many times before. I found it, and I said it from the very beginning, that I'll never attend a Super Bowl unless I'm playing in it. So I'm going to hold true to that. It's not going to be any different for me. I'm going to be watching it on television, and for the most part, it's just the only thing is there are not going to be as many parties to attend or house parties or events to go and like socialize that. So it'll be much more of an intimate Super Bowl viewing for Brett Romberg this year. So yeah, I'm interested though. This could be, you say it almost every year with Matt Ryan and Tom Brady too as well, but like these two quarterbacks are at the top of the level of amazing football playing abilities, whether you got a pocket passer or a guy that can just, make something happen. So it's really, really cool to watch this one.
Well, I think this is going to be one of the most highly anticipated games. People are really clamoring to see Brady and Mahomes on the same field playing for the big trophy. Yeah. Brady in his 10th Super Bowl, going for his 7th Super Bowl ring. I mean, geez, they're going to have to put more fingers on his hands pretty soon.
Those, I don't know if you've seen any Patriot rings before. I've held a bunch of them, and God, are they amazing? Like,
really?
Oh God, they're Super Bowl rings. You got your NBA rings, which are pretty gaudy, but the more Kraft kept winning, you have to outdo the other one, the previous one, and more diamonds and more obnoxious and more elevation and more stones and God. And I'm watching my friend used to put them all in his sock and keep them in his sock drawer. So he would like just empty out a sock in his hand, and he's got like 4 rings in there. I'm just like, Jesus, man. Yeah.
Well, I saw my old high school football coach coached at for the Cowboys with Jimmy Johnson.
Oh, really?
Carmen Grosso.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you remember, because he coached.
I know the name
with Jimmy at the U, and he's back at our old high school, LaSalle.
Cool.
And I remember going back for a alumni event, and I was just separated, going through a divorce, and he had a Super Bowl ring, and I said, Coach, man, that is a credible Super Bowl ring. He says, if you ever want to borrow it, when you're out with a girl, no problem, I'll lend it to you, Korge.
They're an attention getter, and I think there's a minimum of how much you have to spend on them, and Crafty kept going higher and higher. Like those rings are like $30,000-$40,000 a piece.
Crazy.
Between the stones and the gold. The Patriots, when you got the white gold shining, or aside from your yellow golds, and then the diamonds mixed in, it's just, oh God, it's obnoxious. They're awesome.
They're awesome.
Oh, they're awesome. I don't wear mine. I don't wear any of my not NFL, obviously, my collegiate rings, my Remington trophy ring, all that. I never really wear that stuff. But I promise you, if I won the freaking Super Bowl, that thing ain't coming off. Man.
Really?
That thing ain't coming off. That's an incredible accomplishment. So yeah, hats off to those guys. And Tommy don't have enough fingers, for Christ's sakes, on the one hand.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe Giselle's gonna have to wear when he gets 11.
Well, some guys actually do that. They'll take the top off and they'll make the pendant for the wives. Yeah,
that'll be kind of nice to see. What we're anticipating. I'm going to be anticipating our show next Wednesday, because we have Tony Bosch.
Yeah,
you might recall Tony Bosch,
Screwball Tony,
and our good friend over here, Takedown Tommy, is the one that's arranged that for Tony Bosch to come in here and
Where
talk.
Did you go last night that your name is Takedown Tommy today?
Just a couple places.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Okay.
I hear the stories.
I had the breakfast they gave you at the Quality Inn. I brought in.
I'm sure that's a gourmet meal.
And we got Luke Pettigrew too.
And we got Luke
former New York Giant, buddy of Jeremy Shockey's. I know Luke pretty well. And then, and I'll try to throw him in a little Ken Dorsey to see what he's got going on, see if he's available.
That'd be great. So looking forward to another show with you, Brett Romberg, next week here on Romberg Korge at Miami Community News. We'll have another great show for you then. Tune in to us then, and all the great programming here at Miami Community News, offering you local, as Grant Miller says, what's happening here in South Florida and in the state of Florida. As we talked Super Bowl pretty much all day here today.
Yeah. Or all gay, either one.
All day, whatever.
No gender specifics here, baby. We're conforming.
Thank you, Mr. Romberg, for joining me here today.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Takedown Tommy, for another great show. Appreciate that. And we'll see you next week, Wednesday. Don't miss it. Wednesday, 10 a.m. live for Romberg and